Hello everybody. Two more dreams to relate. Oddly, the second one is on a similar theme to Piers, so that might be of interest to people. But we've got to get through the first one first, right, which is actually quite a long one. I have to say, this was one of the strangest and indeed amusing dreams I can ever remember having. Also the longest, or at least one of the longest I remembered in any detail on waking. By way of background, you may, or understandably may not, remember a few weeks ago I had a typically short dream where I was walking down a street as a boy with a friend when I spotted coming towards me a female classmate at school who I was hopelessly in love with, and begged my companion not to make me look a fool in front of her. Her name was Anne, and my one-sided love affair lasted for 3 or 4 years, surviving our eventual going to different schools. Thanks to the, at that time for me at least, psychologically disastrous UK idea of having passed the so-called 11+ exams, we were shipped off to all-male and all-female schools respectively for the rest of our school lives, and for me, breaking off pretty well all contact with girls until I started work. It continued for another 2 to 3 years, during which I hung around with a classmate who happened to live up the same road as Anne, and I therefore got a very occasional glimpse of her. But they were very few and far between, and of course stopped completely once my friend moved house, as did my friendship with him. It was probably him who was with me in the earlier dream mentioned above. He knew about my feelings for Anne, and it would have been typical of him to think it a great joke to do something to embarrass me in front of her. Anyway, the dream. So soon they all cry. I'm not sure how old I was or appeared to be, as I guess there is no such thing as age on the timeless real side, but as the dream reached its climax, I must have seemed to have been in my 30s probably. I found myself driving into Anne's road, which in no way resembled her road here. By here, I mean on the physical side. I found myself apparently in her back garden, on my own, and seemed to be gluing together some evidently broken furniture, sofas and the like. Then a couple, apparently in their 50s or thereabouts, appeared, and I assumed these were Anne's parents, although I'd never knowingly seen them here. I seem to have had the idea it would be a good idea to declare my feelings for their daughter and request they let me see her. Although I did not hear any response from them, evidently they did not agree, as clarified by the succeeding events. Improbably, for the size of their house here, they seem to have in their back garden a veritable Olympic-sized swimming pool. Only thing was, instead of water, it was filled with liquid chocolate. Not of the consistency of drinking chocolate, but more viscous, rather like motor oil in that way. I was standing about waist deep in the stuff when I saw the couple over the other side, and hearing somebody say something to the effect of, "Bring out the anaconda," was confronted by them trudging towards me carrying the biggest snake I've ever seen. 2 people would never have been able to carry such a big beast here. It was a good 25 to 30 feet long and at least a foot or so thick. However, anaconda it was not. It was totally the wrong colour. In fact, it was basically white and had the wrong markings, more like a thin-lined black crisscross pattern all down its body. Its head was also the wrong shape, almost mammalian, with prominent and somewhat endearing round eyes. I got the impression it knew I loved snakes and was more intent on making my acquaintance than attacking me, which probably annoyed the couple who seemed to be trying to weaponize it. In fact, it reminded me a bit of pictures I've seen of Chinese dragons at ceremonies. unlike Western dragons, Chinese ones are apparently always benevolent. The scene changed, though I was still standing in the chocolate pool. Oddly, not once did I think to taste it, but now alone. Then over the other side there appeared a veritable tsunami of chocolate, a huge wall of the stuff, and it started pouring down into the pool like Niagara Falls. I have to say, during none of the events in this dream did I feel anything approaching fear. Indeed, at this point it was beginning to get so absurd that I found it rather funny. Another change of scene found me, and this is difficult to explain or now quite completely visualise, partly driving, partly flying, just me, no plane, around in concentric circles just above the heads of the couple who had by now been joined by a young woman. It was not Anne though, but somehow I knew she was her younger sister, something Anne did not have here, only an elder brother, though he never appeared in the dream. As far as I can now remember, they were all waving their arms about ineffectually, and after I think the third circle by me, I seemed to be able to break free and found myself driving away up the road. Before leaving their house, I glanced to my right and saw I was passing their long back garden, and that there were two women standing sideways onto me talking. One was slightly taller than the other, this latter proving to be the sister, and it slowly dawned on me the taller one was Anne. She had grown into a mature woman of about 30, but I still recognised the facial features that had so entranced me, and I was greatly relieved to note that, despite the fact she was still undoubtedly attractive, I felt no feelings for her whatsoever. That's the end of the dream, but a few thoughts on it. My own feeling about this dream is that in giving me it, the real guides had cleverly answered two questions of mine that had been buzzing around in my mind for a while now. That is, what did she look like as a woman? And if I ever met her again, would I still have the same feelings towards her? Though somewhat unlikely after 60-odd years. In so doing, they had released me from a potential tap line forever. About all the other weird stuff, I guess it might have been showing me that, for whatever reason, I was lucky not to have got involved with that family. One final thought. Although I enjoyed chocolate as much as anyone, I'm certainly not in any way addicted to it, as might be suggested by the rather weird dream. Pass over to you, Duane, please.
Yes, hello, Peter. Boy, that was fun. That's great. That's a great experience that you have there, and there's a lot going on. There's that part. I went through similar things too. We all do when we're in school, grade school or whatever. I had some girlfriends, and there was one that I went through the whole night one time with the emotional feelings and all that, and the tap lines. That was probably the first 5 years while I was in the corporation in the 70s, etc., a long time ago. And we all go through this, and like the mending of the furniture and whatever, kind of patching things up. And yeah, you go through that. Now the swimming pool in their backyard represents their life itself is an isness. It's really like an endless sea is what it is. Paul called it the ocean of love and mercy. Well, that's something cute to call it, but really it's an endless sea. And people that have pools in their backyard, well, that's their ocean. That's as big as it is. It doesn't go any further because it's all personal. So they don't see the real ocean, the real sea of life, the scene, etc. And the chocolate, whatever. Well, these people must have really liked chocolate because that's what they saw. That's what they saw their life as. That was their life. And the snake itself, well, that was probably their best idea they could to possibly get rid of you or devour you or whatever. That was kind of their idea of the situation. That's one way to look at it. But then you rose above it. you were able to rise above it. Yeah, you were helped. So those questions in your mind, they were answered there, and they were taken care of too, because it looks like you were willing to release it. So as long as you are, as long as people are, they will get help. But lots of times people aren't willing to release things, so they're stuck with it. But now you got a bigger view of the situation, and we all go through these things for many lifetimes, and we carry these things even from past lifetimes, to where we meet somebody that we knew in the past, but we don't recognize them. But you got to see her, and it's okay. She's on her journey. It's all being to being. Everything is now, but you went through that experience, so you have the objective view to not only recognize what's going on, they helped you release it going through those that experience, but you have the objective view to where you can compare it as you're on your journey to recognize the is. That helps you release that and see everybody as being to being, because that's what we really are, and not all these emotional attachments. So great experience. Thank you for sharing.